Disgraced hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs has officially been sentenced to 4 years in prison for prostitution and sexual-related crimes. This is breaking news coming out of New York City right now as we speak, and we have all the details you guys need about the Diddy sentencing which occurred today. Now, there was tons of deliberation in the courtroom over the past few hours, starting this morning leading into the early evening in New York. And let's go over a couple of the details here, as there are many courtroom updates surrounding Sean Combs, aka P. Diddy. So we see these new court sketches, which are really sort of the work of nightmares. This looks like a guy who's very sorry he got caught, in my opinion, not necessarily sorry for what he did. Here's another photo of him here with his attorney, Brian Steele. So you knew he was going to get a pretty good deal, by the way, because Brian Steele is the attorney. For anybody who's not familiar, Brian Steele, the same lawyer who was recruited for the Young Thug case for the RICO trial, got Young Thug completely off scot-free after just a couple of years in prison, or just over a year. So definitely expected something similar for the Diddy case. And it looks like he did get off pretty easy, by the way. I'm pretty sure that they were looking at about 11 years behind bars for Sean Combs, and he's going to do less than 4 years in total. So let's read a little bit about the court proceedings today and what actually happened in court for P. Diddy. NBC reports that Sean Diddy Combs said the following in court. Diddy claims that he changed for the better in today's sentencing hearing. He said, quote, "I can't change the past, but I can change the future." He apologized to two former girlfriends who accused him of physical and sexual abuse. Cassandra Cassie Ventura, the R&B singer who dated him on and off for a decade, and a woman identified in court under the pseudonym Jane. So one woman he apologized to, of course, is Cassie, who we saw in the viral video of him. Probably the most damning piece of evidence, I would say, is the Cassie video. So that's obviously somebody who's going to be high profile when it comes to this case. Diddy also continued to speak in court saying, quote, "My actions were disgusting, shameful, and sick. I was sick from the drugs. I was out of control. I needed help, and I didn't get the help." That's the official quote here from Diddy in court before he was officially sentenced for his crimes. He says, "I lost all of my businesses and lost my career and destroyed my reputation, and most of all, I lost my self-respect. I have been humbled and broken to my core. I hate myself right now. I've been stripped down to nothing." These are the official quotes here from Diddy in court. Definitely trying to play the victim. He's playing that victim card all the way here, trying to, I guess, get the sympathy. But by the sounds of it, it may have worked given the outcome of this sentencing. NBC reports that he broke down crying as he directly addressed his mother, who was seated in the courtroom's gallery. Diddy said, "You taught me better," sobbing and placing his hands on his head. The Oscar goes to. The Oscar goes to Diddy right now. So apparently he sat there sobbing and told his mother, "You raised me better." So Diddy putting on quite a show here in the courtroom as he gets sentenced to 4 years in prison. I see a comment here asking about time served. So yes, time served is going to be in effect here. So Diddy was sentenced to 50 months in prison after being convicted on 2 prostitution-related charges back in July. People magazine reports that since he will get credit for time served, Diddy will be in prison for 36 months or 3 years. The judge also imposed a $500,000 fine against Diddy, which is the maximum amount allowable for a fine against someone in this scenario. So Diddy will officially serve 3 years in prison due to time served, and he will have the penalty of $500,000 to pay to the courts, which that's probably going to hurt Diddy more right now than even spending time in jail. I mean, this dude has probably went through the ringer financially. When you look at how long he's actually been under questioning, how long he's been in custody, how many business dealings and opportunities he's lost, which is basically all of them, and the amount of money he has to be spending for this case, for these lawyer fees, I would imagine that this $500,000 penalty is going to hurt him just as much as the jail time. And I do think it's a good thing that the judge implemented this as well. It sounds like the judge wanted to put more time against Diddy. The court, from what I understand, was looking at 11 years, not 4 years. So we're going to listen to some reporting about this now. But it sounds like the judge said, look, if we can't get you for 11 years, if we can't get the full weight of the law against you, so to speak, we will at least go ahead and impose this fine. So we're going to take a listen to Law and Crime Network. They did have a report about this, which may shed some more light on the details of the sentence. So let's listen right now.
I want to let you know, Judge Subramanian is back. He has begun officially delivering his sentence. He says to the court, he says to Sean Combs, at the outset, I want you to understand, Mr. Combs, you are not being sentenced for acquitted conduct. So he's not being sentenced for racketeering. He's not being sentenced for sex trafficking. But under 3553, which, by the way, is the federal statute regarding imposition of a sentence, under 3553, I must consider many things. Mr. Combs, you are a self-made artist who has inspired community of color. Okay, so we're stopping right there. We're waiting for these updates to come in real time. Serena, does that I'm going to tell you, there's a but, right? Yes, you've done many things, but, and that might not be good for Sean Combs.
Yeah, it can never be a good thing when the judge opens up with saying the good things you did. The judge is like, you've been a pillar for underprivileged communities and you've impacted so many people with your music and your career. You know the next thing out of that judge's mouth is going to be vile. It's going to be atrocious, the next thing the judge says.
When a judge gives any sort of remarks like that, there's always a but. And when you start hearing good things, be prepared for the flip side because it's coming.
Exactly.
And I will say to your earlier comments about turning life around, this is a very different type of crime than your typical one-day event. You know, yes, he was a great guy in certain other aspects of his life, perhaps, but he was living a lifestyle of these crimes. It's very different from a defendant who appears in front of a judge who had one bad day, right? Got robbed one person, got into a fight with one person and stabbed that person. This was a lifestyle.
Okay.
Pretty good point by this woman here, too, because I was thinking the same thing. This is not a guy who made a couple of bad choices. This is not a guy who can go into court and say, look, I made a mistake. Yes, Diddy made a mistake, but he made a mistake night after night after night for decades. This dude made a mistake every hour of every day for 20 plus years. So the idea that he's somehow changed now, to me, is laughable because he had so many years to change. You know, I heard somebody put this in perspective one day and it made a lot of sense. It was that it's often really easy to do the right thing and often really challenging to do the wrong thing. You know, if Diddy was just going to be rich and live his life and not abuse people, that would be easy to do. The challenging part is waking up every day and coming up with ways to extort people, coming up with ways to victimize people, putting all this effort in. Think about all the effort Diddy had to put in to these freak-off parties. Think about the meticulous planning and the money and the resources put in to throwing these events, all the time and resources put in to harming other people, to victimizing people, to committing crimes. This is not a guy that you can write off as a dude who made a couple of bad decisions. This guy ran a criminal enterprise based on the fact that he wanted to victimize vulnerable people. He wanted to victimize women. He wanted to victimize people who were working for him. Not even just women, men too. I mean, this dude was an equal opportunity offender. P. Diddy was equal opportunity. You could get it from any which way. So the concept that he somehow is changed now, well, he's changed now because he got caught.
Another update. Judge says, we saw the video. The free game course in the MDC. The court hopes you continue to expand it. You are devoted to your family. The court, of course, considers the collateral consequences. The court has to consider all of your history here. And that's true, by the way. The factors to be considered in imposing a sentence are and this is, I'm looking at the statute, the nature and circumstances of the offense, the history and characteristics of the defendant, the need for the sentence to be imposed, the kinds of sentences available, the kind of sentence and the sentencing range, any pertinent policy statement, the need to avoid unwarranted sentence disparities among defendants. So just looking for an update here. Okay. A history of good works can't wash away the record in this case. You abused these women. You used that abuse to get your way. Freak-offs and hotel nights. The evidence of the abuse is massive. I was sitting right here during the testimony. Joe, this isn't good for Sean Combs.
No, it's not good for Sean Combs because he started off with good stuff and he says, but on the other hand, you know what I mean? Because to my mind, I mean, it could be different, but a lot of times you start off with the part, not with the part that.
For anybody just joining, P. Diddy sentenced to 50 months in prison for his sexual crimes, his freak-offs, and much more. With time served, he's in for about 36 months behind bars, and he's been ordered to pay a $500,000 fine to the courts for his misdeeds. That's for anybody who's just joining. The official verdict for P. Diddy, the official sentencing, is 50 months, which will come down to 36 months, including time served up until this point in time.
The argument would be, yes.
And I want to ask you guys, too, before we listen to more coverage, do you guys think 4 years is low? Because I feel like 4 years is pretty low. I mean, I'm pretty sure the courts were pushing for 11. I would have liked to see at least 5 years because I'm not a judge, but I'm comparing it to the amount of time spent committing the crimes. Again, people get 5-10 years for crimes that occurred as a one-off incident. You know, people will do a sexual crime or more often sort of a homicide or something like that. They'll do one incident and they'll get years in prison. Double digits even sometimes. For this guy to be doing crimes over the span of 10, 15, 20, 25 years? I mean, realistically, on paper, Diddy's been doing crime for 30 years. I feel like it should be somewhat proportionate, and again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm definitely not a judge. I'm not a guy who's trained in the legal field, so I know that there's a certain way they have to go about this. But I'm just saying, I feel like if you spend 25 to 30 years investing in committing crimes, you should probably get at least a decade behind bars. It should somewhat be proportionate to the amount of time spent investing in crime.
Very specifically is that I was sitting right here. I heard the testimony. And I think that is what is so vital when we were talking about the way that the judge was going to end up with all of this sentencing is the fact that it wasn't today he decided it. It wasn't in the 3 months that he had to go through and read all of those letters. No, it was when he was sitting there in the courtroom seeing Cassie and Jane and Mia and all of the testimony there that this happened over and over again. It wasn't, to your point, to what Serena said earlier, this wasn't a one-time thing. This was a pattern of abuse that the prosecution put on and displayed, and then here we have a conviction. And so I do think that all of this is kind of running through Judge Arun Subramanian's mind as he's coming forth, putting down this sentence, because, I mean, it's really hard to ignore.
All right, Judge, this just came in. A significant sentence is required to deter. You say you're sorry and you won't do it again. After Ms. Ventura's civil lawsuit was filed, after the video was public, an investigation started. You had a brutal hotel night with Jane, punched her in the head. Serena, that is the key here. That is something we have talked about during the course of the day. It didn't deter him. There were significant episodes that came out after. Okay, Hold on one second. I'm getting the sentence right now. Okay, here we go. Oh, boy.
I'm sweating.
Exploitation and violence against women must be met with real accountability to promote respect for the law. The court reaches a few conclusions. 135 months would be more than necessary. Now, I don't know if that means that that's the actual sentence right now, but 135 months is over 11 years in prison. So over 11 years in prison would be more than necessary. That's what the judge is saying here, Serena. I don't know.
I feel like it's pretty necessary, though. I mean, here's one thing I want to look at. How long did Harvey Weinstein get sentenced for? I want to see that right now. So Harvey Weinstein, look at this. So Harvey Weinstein, for his conspiracy in Hollywood, he was sentenced to 16 years in prison on 1 count of rape and 2 counts of SA. 1 count of rape put Harvey Weinstein in prison for 16 years. The initial conviction, he was sentenced to 23 years in prison. So I feel like Diddy needs to be held accountable to a higher standard, to a higher level than 4 years, 3 years in prison because of time served. I mean, and here's why. Here's the reason I compare it to Harvey Weinstein at all. These are two characters who not only did all these heinous crimes, but the common thread, and really why this is so concerning and it's getting so much spotlight, is the fact that these are two individuals who use their position of power within Hollywood to do these crimes. Diddy could not have been Diddy without using the music business, without using all of these systems which are in place evidently to safeguard criminals, to safeguard predators within these businesses. And correct me if I'm wrong, that was the main reason why Harvey Weinstein was held so much to account. It wasn't just because he was an individual guy who was committing crimes. It was because he was a high-level, high-power individual within the world of Hollywood who used that position to commit these crimes, who used his position of power and influence to victimize other people. Now, again, I'm not a judge or a lawyer, but I feel like you should get more time if you're in a position of power. You should get more time behind bars because it takes away the incentive from other people to do it. It takes away the incentive from the next Weinstein, the next Diddy, the next Epstein, and it erodes the power structure that protects people who do these things. 4 years in prison, 3 years with time served. That's like a slap on the wrist for a major crime network, a major network of abuse, a major network of corruption and power. It's ridiculous.
Know if that's the official sentence as of yet. We're waiting to get confirmation about that. But what does that say?
Well, just to throw that number out there like that means that at least he was considering the 11 years that the prosecution put forth, and maybe even more than that. It sounds like he's kind of tempering it, like that is more than necessary and it'll be less than the 11. But it also sounds like he at least considered it very seriously as an option.
Now I'm wondering, Sierra, are we talking 7 years? I mean, again, it's something we talked about earlier. Maybe the benefit of the family speaking and the benefit of the work that he's done was not to get to 11 years, but not to go lower than the 5 to 7 range. So that may have been the benefit, but I'm wondering if 7 years is what we might be looking at. Again, I'm waiting for official confirmation on the sentence here, Sierra.
I think that is possible here, that maybe he's saying, okay, yes, the prosecution, the government brought forward this number of 11 years. Yeah, that is more than necessary based on, we actually have an update, Jesse. I'm going to throw it back to you.
Yep, a sentence over 11 years is not reasonable.
I mean, all speculation as of right now, but
after being convicted of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution.
Yeah, so he's only getting time for transportation to engage in prostitution. He's not even getting time for conspiracy or anything like that, which to me is really odd.
The judge has just said here the data shows a wide variety of sentences. Weighing all of the relevant factors, the court determines that the sentence is 50 months of incarceration. So 50 months of incarceration is a little over 4 years. It's 4.16 years in prison. Now, that is a bit lower than what the range was of 5 to 7 years, Sierra. Let's start there. If I'm reading this correct, and we're talking 50 months, and we have another update coming in. I'm just waiting to see what it is. But right now, it appears that Sean Combs has officially been sentenced to 50 months of incarceration, so 4 years in prison. You talk about time served, right? About a year. Are we talking now then 3 years, right, Sierra?
Yeah, so about 3 more years based on the 1 year that he has already served. And I guess, I mean, it is a win for P. Diddy, and that the government asked for 11.
It's still a win. That's what I was thinking. This is still a win. And look, I know Diddy wanted to get out of prison. I know he was pushing hard to get released, but that's his delusion talking. I mean, there's no sense of reality where he's going to get out of prison. So I'm surprised they were even pushing for a release. I think they wanted probation and house arrest or something like that. Some kind of combination like that. So this is a win for P. Diddy. And I'm looking at the comments here. I kind of agree with the comments. I think this is a shockingly short sentence for Diddy. The comments here on the Law and Crime channel say shockingly short sentence, you mean? That's insulting to the victims. 4 years is nothing compared to what he was facing. So all the comments are basically saying, look, this is bullshit. 4 years is nothing. 4 years is certainly nothing in this case. For anybody just tuning in, Sean P. Diddy Combs has officially been sentenced to 50 months in prison. He's going to do about 3 years due to time served. And we have some details here from prison, or I guess not from prison anymore, from the courtroom rather, on the Diddy case. So here's a courtroom sketch of Diddy dropping to his hands and knees after finding out that he was guilty. Which again, are we surprised that he's guilty? I mean, I don't know how he thought he was actually going to get out of this. I mean, again, he went and got Brian Steele, so he got the best attorney in the game. That probably gave him a little bit of false hope, too. Because, look, if you really think about it, the fact that Young Thug is walking the streets right now is also pretty questionable. I mean, Young Thug is another guy who probably, arguably, and I know people aren't going to like it when I say this, but he should probably be in jail. The level of crimes that Young Thug committed and facilitated by proxy, you would think this guy would be in prison right now. So I would imagine that Diddy probably got a little boost of confidence once he got Brian Steele on his team, because I think he probably felt like he was going to actually be able to beat this now. And they were probably telling him behind the scenes, look, we're going to get you out. We're going to get you minimal time. But evidently none of that happened, and he's going in for at least 4 years. But again, they did get him off quite easy. Here's another courtroom sketch of Diddy crying and giving the waterworks. Again, the Oscar goes to Sean Combs in today's sentencing. Look at that. He looks terrified. The full Diddy statement that he said in prison while crying in tears, we read a little bit of it off the top. We will read Diddy's full statement to the court right now. Diddy said, quote, "People can change. I know I've changed. Sometimes you have to go through life experiences. These are not excuses. I can't change the past, but I can change the future. I beg your honor for mercy," said Diddy. "To be a father again, to be a son again, a leader in my community again, to get the help I need. I don't want to let God down. I have no one to blame but myself, said Diddy. I know I will never put my hands on another person again. I'm willing to comply with any conditions. That is the statement from Diddy, which he said officially to the courts. The very hollow and soulless, by the way, statement from Diddy. Absolutely not buying this in any sense of the word. Not buying it, not feeling an ounce of actual remorse. Again, because when did we ever hear about Diddy in the 25 to 30 years of crime that he committed ever feeling bad about what he was doing? There was never a case, we heard a lot of reports through the years from people who worked with Diddy, people who he considered friends, people who he considered even some form of family at the time, people who were really in the know with Diddy and his situation. We heard many statements, we've heard many different accounts, but one thing we haven't heard is Diddy saying at any point in the past 25 years that he wanted help. We never heard anything about Diddy voicing that maybe what he was doing could have been wrong. We never heard Diddy voicing regret for what he did. All we heard about in the past 25 years from all these accounts that are coming out now is Diddy putting in more effort to hide his crimes, more effort to conceal his crimes, and more effort to keep them going. We have to remember, this is the same guy who would beat Cassie so bad, not to get graphic, but he would beat Cassie so bad that he would have to lock her in a hotel room for days on end until he could let her out to go walk around because he beat her so bad. This is the same dude who would have hotel rooms on standby in different rooms to lock women away after he would beat them black and blue until they would heal up enough to go in public. This is the same guy we're talking about. So when people talk about, oh, he's a father or he's a son, he wasn't acting like a father when he was doing that. He wasn't acting like a father when he was beating women black and blue. He wasn't acting like a father when he had that Cosby pill and he was putting that Bill Cosby in people's drinks. He wasn't acting like a father when he was doing that. So the idea that there's any remorse, the idea that there's any sort of semblance of humanity in this man, after he's been in jail for a year, he says, I've changed. Well, usually when you're locked in a room with no access to harm people, you're going to change. Like, if the only time that you change is when you're locked in a cell, away from the general public, you're locked away from having access to society, if that's the only time that you're able to display change of behavior, that's a pretty good sign that you belong in prison for the rest of your life. Like, prisons were made for people like P. Diddy. Prisons were literally invented for people like Sean Combs because he's not able to control himself in the regular world. He has no ability to control his behavior without imposing his will on innocent people, imposing his will on victims. So I find it pretty rich that his statement says, well, recently I've changed. You've been locked in a padded cell for 12 months. I would hope you changed. And some people don't even change then. But the only ounce of remorse that we've ever seen from Diddy is after he's locked in a cell. It's unbelievable. And look, like I say, I'm not the judge and I'm not the jury. I'm just calling it like I see it. You know, they say money changes people. They say, I don't think money changes people. I think money gives people the ability to be who they really are. And like I said off the beginning of the stream, it takes a lot of effort when you're that blessed with that much money and that much career opportunity. It takes a lot of effort to use those blessings in a negative way. It takes a lot of effort to go ahead and say, I'm Diddy. I'm a hip hop mogul. I'm running multiple record labels. I got some of the biggest artists on the planet. Instead of relaxing on an island somewhere, or instead of going to Louis Vuitton to shop and buy out the store, or instead of going to a 5-star restaurant, I would rather have a freak off. I would rather go beat the dog shit out of Cassie, or I would rather go do this and that. It takes effort when you're this blessed to be a piece of shit. It takes effort to do these things to people. It's actually a lot easier to be a good person. It takes less planning. It takes less time. So let's listen. We have a report here from CBS News.
This is a CBS News special report. I'm John Dickerson. Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs was just sentenced to more than 4 years in prison. The 55-year-old was convicted back in July on 2 counts of transportation to engage in.
But why isn't he being charged for all the child stuff? Like, this dude had victims who were underage. This dude had victims in all types of scenarios. This dude was using his record label to try to recruit victims. Why is he only being charged for transportation for prostitution? This dude had GHB in the baby oil. This dude had underage girls running out of rooms, running for their lives. This dude had people waking up talking about, I had Diddy over me on my left and Jay-Z over me on my right. Allegedly. Again, I don't want to mess with Jay-Z too much. Because people say, do you want $500,000 or dinner with Jay-Z? But when you talk about Jay-Z, I'd rather live. You know, those are your options. So I'm going to pick dinner with Jay-Z because at least I'll be alive when I go to dinner with Jay-Z. But seriously, this is the shit they don't want you to talk about. Why are the charges only for transportation for prostitution? Did the law change, guys? Like, I feel like the law might have changed. And correct me if I'm wrong. Is it suddenly legal to be a pedophile? Is this the law change that's happened now? Because I'm looking at Jeffrey Epstein. I'm looking at all the... Oh, you guys thought we forgot about the Epstein files, by the way. The mainstream media, see, they thought we forgot about the Epstein files because of this circus. I'll be the guy to say we're still talking about the Epstein files, but look, there may have been a law change in the United States of America. Because I'm looking at the Epstein files, he got away with everything. For the most part. Everybody involved in the Epstein files, well, they got away with everything too. Now P. Diddy, he doesn't even get sentenced for any of his crimes with kids and underage people, all of this trafficking. These things must not even be illegal. Or maybe it's not illegal for people of wealth. Maybe it's not illegal for affluent people or wealthy people. But I'll tell you guys this. If something is only illegal in the way of a fine, if something is only illegal for people who don't have money, by proxy, that means it's only illegal. It's not really illegal. If you can pay your way out of something, it's not really illegal. It's only illegal for the poor people. So that's what I'm starting to question. How do we get to a place where you can do all this shit, allegedly, I'll have to say allegedly, and get away with it?
Prostitution. Combs had pleaded not guilty to all charges and was acquitted of 2 more serious charges, sex trafficking and racketeering, which would have led to a potential life sentence. Moments before he was sentenced,
He should have been in jail for life.
Combs apologized for his disgusting, shameful, and sick behavior. Those are his characterizations. Our Jerika Duncan is outside the courthouse. Jerika has covered this case from the beginning. Jerika, your thoughts?
This was the most important day of this case, and Combs did give a statement about 12 minutes long where he spoke directly to the court. He talked about being personally responsible and apologized for what happened with his ex-girlfriends, Cassie Ventura and Jane. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and he said moments ago, I want to personally apologize to all of the victims of domestic violence. He said, quote, I hate myself right now. I was stripped to nothing. And when it comes to that video of him beating Cassie, he said, I was sick on drugs. I was out of control. I needed help. I make no excuses. I knew better. But the judge had some very sharp words in response to Combs. He acknowledged that he is trying to do better and told him that he hopes that he continues that, but instantly went into rejecting attempts to characterize what happened as, quote, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. He said you abused your power and control you had over women you claimed you had loved. You abused them emotionally and physically. He said the evidence was massive. I was sitting right here, he said. We read it and we saw it. Images of gashes and bruises and broken doors, and I saw it in the video. It was savage. This is according to the judge. This is some of the comments that he made just moments ago in court. Alice Gaynor from WCBS is in the courtroom right now and sending out notes.
So look, if somebody can explain this part to me, I would appreciate it, because this is still a developing story. I'm going to see if I can get some people to call in who have an understanding of the way the law works in a case like this. But my question is this. If it's being acknowledged that he did all these things to women, if the judge is acknowledging that, in fact, he did beat women black and blue, he left gashes on women, he sexually assaulted people, why is he not being prosecuted for this? Why is he not being sentenced for that as well? He's only being sentenced to prostitution transportation charges? Why is he not being sentenced for beating women and sexual assault? If somebody could explain that, please.
To give us
because I'm not following that part.
Sense of what Combs' demeanor is like right now. What is his family reacting to? I also want to note something that the judge mentioned in reference to Jane. She went by the pseudonym Jane, but this was also an ex-girlfriend. He said he referred to the brutal assault of Jane by saying, you kicked down 5 doors in her home, lifted her off the floor by her neck, punched her, kicked her, dragged her by her hair, slapped her so hard she fell down. Jane, quote, her credibility testified to those things, that she was a credible witness. So some sharp words again from the judge who just handed down that sentence, 50 months in prison. There will be time served, we believe, in consideration of that. So considering that, it might actually be 4 years. I'm just looking at a note, sentence is 50 months of incarceration. Agnifilo, which is the lead attorney for Combs, asking for more time to list facility recommendations. Also supervised release, 5 years. No reaction from Combs. He is still sitting, and there's a $500,000 fine. You can see behind me a little bit the crowd that has been gathered here pretty much.
So 50 months plus $500,000 is what Sean Combs is being sentenced for, guys. For anybody who's just joining later in the stream or just getting the news of this story, that is the sentence for Diddy. The sentence was 50 months. He will serve roughly 36 months. Additional time behind bars because the time served is being considered in the 50 months, so it cuts it down to 36. He will also have to pay $500,000, which, like I said before, I think that's going to be worse for him than the actual time in prison, because I'm sure he's running low on money right now, and he's definitely not going to be in the position to bounce back. I feel like there's room for people to bounce back after having hardships in their careers, but I'm not sure if Diddy is going to be a name that can ever be fully recovered. Like, there's crisis management that can be done for certain situations. I think certain celebrities, certain brands, if you really go down a bad path, I think there's a potential comeback for most celebrity brands or celebrity personalities. P. Diddy, I don't think is redeemable. I don't think he's salvageable for a couple of reasons. One, this main thing is about domestic abuse of multiple women. SA of multiple women, but it's also tied into systemic corruption when it comes to the entertainment business, systemic corruption involved potentially also with government and in Hollywood. And in these day and in this day and age, in these times, when it comes to situations like this, situations like Harvey Weinstein, which I mentioned earlier, and of course Jeffrey Epstein, this is a hot button topic. The idea that there's been people in power who use their power to commit evil, that is a very hated thing right now that people are very much on top of. It's not being considered a conspiracy anymore. It's being considered a part of reality that we have to start dealing with. So that being said, being one of the faces of that, having it be like Weinstein, Epstein, and Diddy, I don't think there's any coming back from being on that list. Again, if you committed one crime, even if you committed multiple crimes, look at a guy like R. Kelly. He was able to somehow have people still saying they support him because he wasn't seen as an Epstein type figure or a Diddy type figure where he was necessarily, promising people a record deal or something like that. When you're in this situation like a Diddy, when you're promising people a record deal and then assaulting them, when you're using Hollywood, when you're using big business as a means to an end to abuse people, that is something that I think people are sick of. And there's no real redeeming path for any of these guys. I would hope. That's obviously what I would hope to see. And I think it's fair. But 4 years in prison for organized crime at this level, because what we have to remember too is that this is organized crime. I don't know why this wasn't prosecuted as a RICO case or as some sort of organized, I don't understand how this works. Like I said, I'm looking to the chat to maybe give me some understanding about the sentencing here to shed some light on the way that this was ultimately sentenced, with Diddy only being held accountable for transportation of prostitution, which he committed way worse crimes than that even an average person who does one of those crimes would probably be in jail for a substantial period of time for doing one of those crimes. Diddy is in that position. So I don't understand it, guys. But I feel like 4 years is ridiculous. He should be in jail for at least 10 years. And I don't know if I don't know if this is a specific for this case or if this is the way that we are going now when it comes to the world. Because again, it's being exposed that these figures in big business, big media, and big government are having basic conspiracies under them. They are recruiting people using their power. There is abuse going on. All of this is being accepted as an actual fact. Now, I wonder if we're going to actually see the accountability, though, that's supposed to come with that. Because the idea behind exposing Weinstein, exposing Diddy, and exposing a guy like Jeffrey Epstein, the idea behind it is to hold these people to the same level of account that you would hold an everyday person to. The idea, hopefully, is that if you find Harvey Weinstein running a crooked production company, he would be held to the same account as a creepy guy who has an office who's offering the interns promotion to take their clothes off. That to me is the goal behind exposing these guys, is to hopefully hold them to the same level of account as you would hold anybody else. The only problem with this theory is that rich and famous and powerful people have never been held to account for anything. It doesn't matter what you catch them for. It doesn't matter what you see them, doing with their hand in the cookie jar. They never seem to be held to account for anything. Which is really actually dismaying to me. I mean, to me, it's upsetting. Because, again, you would hope that once you catch these guys, they would at least be held accountable. But this to me reeks of corruption all around. And I'm thinking it might have to do with the amount of people at similar levels of power who are also being exposed. I have a feeling that the way that one guy gets sentenced in today's day and age with all these dudes being exposed is going to potentially affect the way the next guy is sentenced as well. And that I don't like, because that leads to more levels of corruption. Imagine that they're looking at the sentencing for Diddy and they're saying, well, shit, if we go really hard on Diddy, that's going to impact the way that we can deal with the Epstein files. You know, if we go really hard, now just let me cook for a second with this theory. Let's say that they go really hard on Diddy for this. And then there's 10 rappers in the Epstein files. Once that comes out, they're going to have to go equally hard on those people too. If they set the precedence that rich and powerful people are now being held to account, they are going to have to be consistent with that across all sentencing. They're going to have to be consistent with that across the board. But we still don't know how many rich and powerful people in entertainment, people in government, people in big business, people in monarchy, okay? We still don't know how many people are actually guilty of things. So this is my twisted, harebrained, tinfoil hat theory that just came up on this stream. Maybe, just maybe, they're not going too hard on Diddy, because then they would have to go hard on everybody else who's actually guilty of these crimes. They would actually have to go hard on the people in the Epstein files. They would have to start going hard on the people around Diddy too, and around Epstein and around whoever. Because, again, a lot of people around Diddy throughout the years, a lot of rappers, a lot of singers. Jennifer Lopez, I'm talking to you. Jay-Z, I'm talking to you. Although I do like living and breathing, and I'm not suicidal. I will throw that out there, since I'm talking about Jay-Z. We've seen the way that he likes to contact people with legal threats, and I love living and breathing. Quick note to Jay-Z. But seriously, I mean, I'm not feeling it, man. I'm not feeling like this is justice. I'm not feeling like Diddy's being held to the level of account that he needs to be, but also the people around him. Did we even hear from J-Lo in this? Did we even hear from all these people, bro? All these people who were at these parties, all these people who knew exactly what was going on the entire time? Where are they in the mix? Where's Fat Joe? Where's Foxy Brown? Where's Mary J. Blige? Where are all these people who were there while these crimes were being committed? The makeup artists, the bodyguards, the lighting techs. I feel like it's a lot easier to just throw this guy under the bus, Diddy, and let him take the fall. And the fall not even be that bad, by the way, because he got 4 years plus time served. So 3 years in prison. I think it's a lot easier for Hollywood and for big government and for big business to jump on the Diddy train and say, okay, this guy Diddy is not only to blame for his stuff, but let's just let him take the blame for all of it. Let's just blame this one guy. Diddy's the evil character. Nobody who was at the parties is liable of anything. None of the chauffeurs, the makeup artists, the lighting techs, the producers, the actors, the rappers. These guys are all innocent. Diddy's going to take the fall. We're going to sentence him so that we never have to talk about this again, and we can say it was justice was seen through. But then where do we go with the rest of this? You know, Diddy goes to prison for 3 years in this scenario. Okay, he goes to prison for 3 years. That doesn't solve anything. Just hear me out for a second. Let's say Diddy goes to prison for 3 years right now. What questions about this whole situation are answered then? We still don't know who was involved in this. We still don't know which rappers were involved, which singers were involved, what to think about J-Lo, what to think about Beyonce, Mary J. Blige, Jay-Z. We don't know how this was allowed to continue and under whose watch. We don't know a goddamn thing. Not feeling like this is right. Not feeling like this is satisfactory. I'm just not feeling it, man.
All day as the family had been in and out of that courtroom. When I asked a couple of the defense attorneys how they were feeling today, they didn't have a comment. This day was very serious. They knew that going in. Not long ago in July, when it was that split verdict, they said this was a win for Combs. But the second part of that, the most important part of that, is the sentencing happening today. Again, the judge...
In chat, I'm sorry to neglect you there when I was going on that little... I was channeling my thoughts there for a second, but you guys are right. Diddy is the fall guy. And something ain't right.
Sentencing him to 50 months behind bars.
Jerika, what other activity did we have today? Did we hear there were the victims' statements? Was this a part of today's activities? And also, did the judge make any characterization of the final sentence relative to those harsh words that you quoted him as saying? In other words, did he match the two up? Did he say, I'm delivering this very harsh characterological verdict on you, and the sentencing matches that, or did he just not make that connection?
By the way, for all the people saying free Diddy in the chat, because that's the one thing I have seen a lot of people supporting Diddy. What is the rationale behind supporting Diddy? Like, I would love to can we get like a Diddy supporter on the line? Can somebody hit me up on Instagram or something? My Instagram is CassiusMorris _. Just tell me the rationale. I would love to hear the actual like logic behind it.
Action.
No, he did acknowledge that the sentence that prosecutors were asking for, 11 years, was a bit of an overreach. The probation report recommended 60 months. So when you look at the probation report of 60 months, he comes up with 50 months. The prosecutors wanted 11 years behind bars. It's not quite in the middle, but it's a far cry from the 14 months that the defense was asking for. Some other things worth noting, Combs was found guilty on the 2 counts of the Mann Act. This is transportation of people across state lines for the purpose of prostitution, and that is illegal in this country. Prosecutor Christy Slavic at one point during this testimony said that this case was not just about prostitution, but violence. She emphasized the violence. And that is what we heard a little bit from the judge today when he recanted some of the testimony that we heard during the trial.
It's about violence, but they didn't prosecute him for violence. You know what I mean? Like, this feels like if a guy did a bunch of violations in a county, and he knows the guy running the county in America, and the guy is like, okay, we're going to charge you with, like, if you were running red lights in a freight truck, over carrying and carrying contraband, and you were speeding and doing all this, it's like, we're just going to charge you for speeding. We're not going to charge you for over carrying. We're not going to charge you for anything else. That's what this feels like. This feels like Sean Combs ran his truck into the side of a bank, but they only charged him for speeding while he was approaching the bank. They didn't charge him for robbing the bank, and they didn't charge him for destruction of property. Maybe I'm off base. I mean, you guys tell me. This just feels like a cover-up. I actually feel like not only did Diddy kind of get away today, he didn't get away because he's going to prison, but He got off really, really lightly. But the other thing that's starting to creep into me now is I'm feeling like a lot of people got away with something today. A lot of people are relieved today who should not be relieved. A lot of people are ready to put this behind them when this should have just been being brought up for them. And there's a lot of people who got away with some shit today. That's the one main thing I'm feeling from Diddy. A lot of people just got off with something. Because there's no such thing as being a guy at the level of a Diddy or an Epstein and doing it alone. There's no semblance of reality where somebody gets to this level of corruption by themselves. Diddy was not the one setting up these hotel rooms or covering up the blood or all the nasty shit after, or putting the GHB in that baby oil. There were so many people involved in this, man. And nobody else is being charged with anything at all? Not a single person involved in this? You got to be joking.
Cassie Ventura, the star witness, the ex-girlfriend of Combs, who was with him for about 10 years, released a statement before this sentencing was handed down saying, "I am so scared that if he walks free, his first actions will be swift retribution towards me and others who spoke about him at this trial."
All right, Jerika Duncan, thank you so much. Criminal defense attorney Caroline Polisi is with us. Caroline, what's your reaction to this judgment?
I think this is about as good of a sentence that Sean Combs and his lawyers could have hoped for. They did ask for 14 months. Which
Diddy won today. Diddy won this case. That's what people don't get. Even if you go to prison, you can still win. This is a huge win for Diddy. They were seeking 11 years behind bars. Huge win.
Essentially time served. But when probation came in with that assessment, which was 60 months to 72 months, clearly the judge took that into consideration. Now, he downwardly departed from that, meaning I think two things are to note here that you heard the judge say there. One is that a sentence should be sufficient but not greater than necessary to achieve the ends of justice. And so you'll often hear defense attorneys saying that. The second is that similarly situated defendants, you want no discrepancies in similarly situated defendants. When you look at all of the Mann Act guilty verdicts sort of in this jurisdiction, this is a pretty high sentence. And so I think the judge didn't want to get out of that heartland of the sentences while taking into account the violence here. That's the biggest issue here.
Well, right. So on the one hand, you're saying Joe Schmo comes in, has a Mann Act violation. You want the sentences to be the same to hold up that important judicial principle.
I know people are saying Diddy still didn't win, but guys, we just looked it up. Harvey Weinstein, look at this here, received a total sentence of 16 years in prison for the conviction of one count of rape. One count. So we're talking about a guy who's been accused of dozens of counts of rape, dozens of counts of sexual assault, and he's getting away with not even going to prison for that at all. He's going to prison for transportation for prostitution. Meanwhile, Harvey Weinstein, 16 years in prison for one count of rape and 2 counts of SA. The prior conviction, or sentence rather, was 23 years for Weinstein. So the least amount of time Weinstein could do was 16 years. Again, I'm stunned. Not a single count of rape, not a single count of sexual assault, not a single count of drugging. 50 months for transportation of prostitution. That's a speeding ticket in this scenario. That's getting let off with a warning in this scenario. This is a serial criminal. This is a serial rapist. Like this is not a guy who did a couple of crimes. This is a monster. We're talking about a monster here.
That all people are. On the other hand, the judge, as Jerika went through, went on at some length about all of this other material. And
not a single count.
All of the stuff the judge mentioned, is that a part of the Mann Act charge, or is that...
Interesting. So it's not. So remember, it was a huge win for his defense when he was acquitted of those sex trafficking charge, which is essentially a Mann Act charge with the element of violence. And the defense actually raised a constitutional argument here in their brief, saying that, look, if you consider that conduct, the violence, the coercion that was presented by the prosecution, that's actually going against what the sentencing guidelines recommend or state.
I want to see, let's ask ChatGPT a couple questions about Diddy real quick. Okay? I want to ask the AI gods a question. What was Diddy's net worth before going to jail versus his net worth today in 2025?
Before his legal and financial troubles, Johnny Depp's net worth was estimated to be...
Johnny Depp! Motherfucker, I said Diddy! This is why people don't like AI. Let me try it again. What was P. Diddy's net worth before going to jail versus what it is today after his sentencing, October 3rd, 2025. Motherfucker said Johnny Depp. Do you know who Diddy is?
Before his legal troubles, P. Diddy's net worth was about $400 million. But after his sentencing and all the legal expenses, his net worth has taken a hit and dropped quite a bit.
How much has it dropped?
It looks like P. Diddy's net worth has dropped from over $800 million to around $400 million. So that's a significant decline of about $400 million.
Such bullshit. ChatGPT is such bullshit sometimes. You just told me he was worth 400 before prison. Now you're telling me he's worth 400 after prison. When the whole time we were told he was a billionaire. So ChatGPT is full of shit. That's why I don't use it for anything like that. One more follow-up question, just for shits and giggles. I thought Diddy was a billionaire.
It seems that P. Diddy's net worth was around $400 million before his sentencing, so he wasn't actually a billionaire.
Bullshit.
I get that it's a bit surprising.
Oh. I didn't think you would actually hear me.
No worries at all. I'm here to help and chat with you about anything you like. If you have any more questions or need clarification on something, just let me know.
Okay, last one, guys. Last one. Okay, last question. Was 4 years in prison a light sentence given everything Diddy was accused of? Let's see what AI thinks.
It's definitely a complex question. The severity of a sentence depends on many factors, including the specific charges, the evidence, and the legal system. 4 years might seem light to some, but it could also reflect plea deals or other considerations. It really depends on the details of the case.
Well, I feel like AI is so politicized now, like it wants to be politically correct. Shit's just acting like it doesn't have access to the case details when it definitely does. Nonetheless, we're done interviewing ChatGPT for today. Sean Diddy Combs sentenced to 4 years in prison. He will do 36 months after including time served and pay $500,000 in a fine, the maximum fine that could be appointed to him for these crimes. I don't know, guys. I feel like this is going to create quite a backlash. I feel like this is not enough time. Somebody said I should talk to Grok. Is Grok better? He was a billionaire before he got arrested, so yeah, now he's worth about $400 million. Okay, yeah, got you. Someone said you're talking to white AI. Talk to black AI. Does black AI have better information about Diddy? That's hilarious. That's so funny. We're going to listen to a little bit more reporting. Obviously, this is a fresh, brand new story, so there's many different reports coming out as we speak and more information coming out as we speak. Real quick, make sure to click the like button if you guys are enjoying this coverage, and make sure to hit the subscribe as well. I'm on the way to 100,000 subs, and shout out to all the new subscribers who are just rolling in. We'll listen to a little bit more coverage here about Diddy and his sentencing.
Chaotic scenes as Diddy's family came to court to support him at his sentencing.
How you feeling today, Mama?
His mother, Janice, was followed by his son, Quincy, and 3 daughters who entered court hand in hand. Another son and his girlfriend were also there to show their support. Diddy was convicted of transportation to engage in prostitution, but found not guilty of more serious charges. A prosecution witness,
How is he not guilty, though? Chat, is there a lawyer in the chat who can explain this to me? How the fuck is he not guilty, bro? How is he not guilty?
But found not guilty of more serious charges. A prosecution witness, the former exotic dancer known as the Punisher, called for Diddy to be freed.
I do believe justice is time served, and that's because I'm strict on what the law is. His conviction is transportation, and it's kind of hard to wrap multiple years or long periods in jail for paying for transportation.
In a dramatic moment, 6 of Diddy's children gathered around a lectern and pleaded with the judge to set him free. The 55-year-old disgraced music mogul appeared to be crying when his son Quincy said he is totally transformed and will never again jeopardize his freedom.
The daughters especially barely able to hold it together, just crying so much, looking at their father. Even we saw Sean Diddy Combs put his head into his hands when one of his daughters started speaking.
But Diddy's ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, who was severely beaten in this notorious surveillance video, wrote to the judge supporting the prosecution's call for an...
Damn, they just show the video like that? They don't even censor the video on Inside Edition? Like, dude, poor Cassie, man. This girl's got to turn on TV and see herself getting beaten every day.
Severely beaten in this...
they shouldn't really be showing it like that.
Notorious surveillance video, wrote to the judge supporting the prosecution's call for an 11-year prison sentence. His victims and survivors will never be safe, she wrote. The defense played an 11-minute video portraying Diddy as a loving dad, a dutiful son caring for his sick mom, grieving after the death of Kim Porter.
Bro, what the fuck? That's the guiltiest cry I've ever seen. This looks like a dude who just got away with the murder of his wife. That's a brutal thing to say on my part, but is it not? This motherfucker looks like he's picturing what the gates of hell look like for when he walks through them. That does not look like grief. That looks like guilt. That's a cry of omission.
Death of Kim Porter, the mother of 3 of his children, and doing good works like helping found a charter school in the Bronx.
Quite a different Sean Diddy Combs that defense counsel is showing compared to the prosecution.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable, guys. I'm on a mission to figure out while I'm live how the fuck he got found innocent of so much. I don't understand it. I'm not trying to be a broken record and repeat myself, but I don't get it.
Breaking news in Lower Manhattan, where Sean Combs was sentenced to 4 years and 2 months in prison. With time served, it will be a shorter time.
We have team coverage on this story as well. We begin with Eyewitness News reporter Kimberly Richardson, who is outside of the court. Kimberly?
Yes, and people gathered out here now learning about this sentence. Sean Combs sentenced to 4 years, 2 months in prison. Of course, that will also include taking off the 13 months that he has already served in jail in Brooklyn. He will also be followed by 5 years of supervised release and have to pay a $500,000 fine. That is the maximum 5. This sentence is far less than what the prosecution wanted. That group wanted a sentence of at least 11 years behind bars. stars. The defense wanted far less, 14 months. Again, he has already served 13 months. Sean Combs spoke this
Yeah, guys, here's the thing. There's lots of evidence of the other things that he did. So I understand people saying like evidence is a key factor, obviously, but we have to remember there is evidence that we've all seen as well. There's plenty of evidence of him doing all this stuff. There's witnesses. There's tons of factors that are not being considered here. Now, again, I'm sure many of them have been considered, but it doesn't seem to me like they've exhausted their options to try to get the answers here. There's so many people who were not interviewed, so many people who were not called to court for this, so many people who were not even questioned, who all got away with this shit. And there's evidence that's not being considered. We've seen the video of him beating Cassie. We've seen the video of all this stuff. We've seen these videos. So it's hard to say there's no proof when there is. There's lots of proof.
Afternoon. It was the first time that we heard from him at length since this trial started. The 8-week trial started. He spoke for about 12 minutes. He told the judge that he had lost respect for myself. He had lost respect, that he had been humbled and broken to his core. He said that he hated himself right now, that he had been stripped down to nothing. He apologized to his children, telling his mother also, who's been here in the courtroom since the very beginning, that, quote, "You taught me better." He then asked the judge for mercy. He said he begged the honor for mercy. He said if he'd given him a second chance, I wouldn't let him down, that he took full responsibility for his crimes. Again, the judge not buying that, taking a sentence somewhere in between what the prosecution and the defense wanted. The woman at the center who opened this entire can of worms, Combs' former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. Of course, she is the woman we saw in that video from the hotel in 2016 in Los Angeles. Prosecutors say she was trying to leave a so-called freak-off. Combs did not want that to happen, and he was beating and attacking her. This afternoon, just a few minutes ago, we had a statement from Cassie Ventura's attorney saying, quote, "While nothing can undo the trauma caused by Combs, the sentence imposed recognizes the impact of the serious offenses he committed." The judge today, during sentencing, at the end of the day, also commending the women, Ventura and a woman who testified by the name of Jane, another one of Combs' exes, for their bravery in coming forward and telling the truth.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy that only like 2 people who were involved with Diddy as like women actually stepped up. I'm sure many of them are scared though as well. We have this comment here from Brian Steele, who was the lawyer that Young Thug used in this case, which I think is a main reason why he got off pretty scot-free. I mean, again, this is, as much as it is an inconvenience to go to jail for almost 4 years, we have to remember that in legal terms, this is a really big win for Diddy. This is a really big win for Sean Combs. Even though he has to pay $500,000 and even though he has to go to prison for, 3, almost 4 years, the main thing is this. One, they didn't have to look at time served. It was questioned whether or not they would even look at time served when it came to the sentencing. So they gave him time served. They gave him less than the recommended amount of years in jail, which was supposed to be in the double digits. So this is all a big win for him. And I think that this may have something to do with recruiting Brian Steele, who, of course, got Young Thug out of prison damn near scot-free on his YSL RICO case. So Steele is very much in demand in the hip-hop community at this point in time. Kirko on X reports that attorney Brian Steele reportedly had tears in his eyes as he pleaded with the judge to allow Diddy to return home. Brian Steele said, quote, "I sit here with tears in my eyes. I can't believe we're here. Sean has impacted America in such a positive manner." Oh, yeah, such a positive manner, Brian Steele. From killing Tupac to ruining Biggie's career to mercilessly abusing countless women. Yeah, P. Diddy he's quite an American treasure, that Diddy. Don't forget pimp slapping people and putting GHB in baby oil. He's a class citizen. and a shining example of what an American should be. Fucking, how stupid do you have to be to say something like that? Brian Steele continued, Sean's father was killed when he was 3. He works harder than anyone else. More trauma. His best friend is shot in a LA drive-by. He has an operation and gets addicted to painkillers he's given. He's been high from then until 2024. Oh, well, that's an excuse. I think a lot of people have been high from then until 2024. Snoop Dogg's been high since 96. I don't see him getting in prison. Steele said on occasion he would hit the woman he loved. Wow. He loved Mrs. Ventura. He had taken responsibility. I've been there when Sean has prayed for healing for anyone he has hurt. And the Oscar goes to Brian Steele and Sean Combs. Incredible performance today in court. No, Brian Steele's a bad motherfucker, man. I mean, look, if you're in trouble for something, he's your best friend. If you're trying to prosecute someone, he's your worst enemy. But, boy, you know, again, I can't really blame the guy because that's his job. He's a criminal defense attorney, so he's not going to really have glowing reviews from anybody he's not defending. So we have to keep that in mind. But, you know, it gets to the point where it's a little ridiculous. And, again, this whole characterization of Diddy as some sort of inspiration or model citizen, you know, Diddy's a piece of shit. You know, and that's okay. And I would be willing to say it's not just Diddy. I think a lot of the guys that we've been sort of conditioned to look up to in this world are pieces of shit. I think a lot of the guys who we see as motivating are actually bad guys, but we see them as good guys because they live the lives that we want in some way, or again, that we're conditioned to want. You know, Diddy is an example of the traditional American dream. You know, the American dream that we've always been told that we want. But at the end of the day, he's not a good guy. He's a bad guy. He's a very bad guy. So I find it funny that we're still trying to paint the picture of him being a glowing American inspiration. But again, this is a criminal defense attorney talking. This is not based in reality. It's based in the fantasy that this guy's trying to spin for his client. We're seeing some other things on X about this too. So this one here says George Santos got 87 months in prison for financial crimes, while Sean Diddy Combs got 50 months for violence and sexual crimes. It says must be nice to be rich and famous in this country. 50 Cent has reacted to the sentence as well. 50 says, hey, to whoever was booking Diddy for speaking engagements, I heard he won't be able to make it. I'm available, says 50. That's great. 50 is such a menace, bro. That's the one dude. There's very few people that everybody seems to get behind as a celebrity, like everybody likes. I feel like 50 Cent is one of the rare celebrities that everybody likes. It's super, super rare. But I feel like a guy like 50 Cent and Shaq, those are celebrities that everybody likes. And I would almost put Ozzy Osbourne in that category as well. I feel like Ozzy was one of those universally beloved celebrities. This clip here from 2018, it says, Jimmy Kimmel encourages Diddy to run for president and tells him that he wants to be his running mate if he does run. Bro, Jimmy Kimmel's in enough trouble. Jimmy, please. Let's keep it between the lines for just a couple of minutes, Jimmy. I don't want you to be in Alligator Alcatraz for this next one.
Maybe you could be president. Do you ever think about anything like that?
No.
Really, never?
Thank God.
I wouldn't make a good president.
You don't think you'd be good?
I wouldn't really pass any of the things that you have to pass to, but I guess Trump did it.
Yeah, no.
No.
you would be a Boy Scout by comparison.
Nah, I like doing what I'm doing.
You like doing it, yeah. There's no fun in that, is there?
I don't know if I could be responsible for the whole country.
You know what? I think that at this point, almost anybody would be doing a better job.
What about you?
Yeah, and I wouldn't do a better job, but I think I would, you know what, I would, if you agreed to run for president, I would be happy to be your running mate. Let's put it that way, all right?
Wow.
Maybe you could be president. Do you ever?
You know, based on those Epstein files, look, is anybody going to say it? I mean, based on these Epstein files, depending what happens with them, Diddy might actually make a great president. You know, I mean, really, it depends what we allow. Like I said before, it seems like the bar for being president or running things has shifted. Evidently, it may not be that bad, all the stuff Diddy did running for president. That's the scary part. That's why I wonder what this verdict really does for us moving forward when it comes to accountability. No accountability in this world. No accountability for rich people in America. Never has been, never will be. You're the president, you're a singer, you're a rock star. You're you're somebody that we've decided should have special privileges in this world, in this country. You will not be held accountable for a goddamn thing unless holding you accountable will benefit other people. See, in this scenario, Diddy's not held accountable because holding him accountable would be bad for many people. I would say the same thing is happening with these Epstein files. There's many people who are not being held accountable because it would be bad for other people. I'm pretty sure if it would be good for other people, they would be held accountable because, again, it does happen. I hate to be a broken record, but Harvey Weinstein acting alone and being the guy that they could, make the fall guy, that actually benefited many people because there were many Harvey Weinsteins. That's what people forget. But the one that we caught, all of the other Hollywood producers can now be innocent. They can say, well, Harvey Weinstein's the bad guy. Don't look at my production company. Harvey Weinstein is the guy. So holding Harvey Weinstein accountable helps a lot of people because he acted alone. Holding Diddy fully accountable now and sentencing him for all these other crimes, well, that's tougher because Diddy was in it with you know who. Whether it's, you name them. You name them. You name a 90s R&B hip-hop personality, they're likely at least on the guest list for a Diddy party at a certain point in time. So holding Diddy fully accountable is not going to benefit the people higher up, so it's not really going to happen. The only time a guy will be held accountable is when it's not going to make the dominoes fall for the other guys. Big problem in the United States. I don't know how this changes. Look at Diddy. Locked up in prison. We're going to take a look at a couple more things here, guys. Again, make sure to like and subscribe. Shout out to all the new subscribers out there. So this is a report on what Diddy told his 7 kids and his mom during his sentencing, as reported by E! Online. So E! reports that Diddy broke down in tears as he addressed his kids, Quincy, Justin, Christian, Chance, Jesse, and Love, during his October 3rd sentence on transportation to engage in prostitution charges. Diddy said, "I want to apologize to my 7 children," before turning to his mom and saying, "My mother, you taught me better. You raised me better." Diddy added, "I will never jeopardize my family, no matter what anybody says." What? Says, "I know now, and I am truly sorry for it all." Well, first of all, Diddy, you did jeopardize your family. And the second thing is, didn't you involve your family in your crimes? Didn't it come out that Christian Combs was actually involved in multiple freak-offs, multiple accusations of SA? Didn't it come out that your son actually had women on the same yacht that you had them on when they accused him of SA? Again, maybe I'm missing something in the details of this case, but where was Diddy's love for his family when he had his son picking out victims? Where was Diddy's love and appreciation for his 7 children when he had them assaulting other people's children? Where was the consideration then? Where were the family values then, Sean? I'm going to go on a first name basis now, Sean, because we're chastising him now. Where was the family values when you were abusing other people's children with your children, instilling the values of a monster into a child? How does that fly? How does that paint him as, like Brian Steele would say, a glowing example for hardworking Americans? You know the country's twisted when that's the characterization of a guy like this, that he was a glowing motivation for the American dream. The whole country's cooked. It's also said that Diddy wanted to personally apologize to his ex, Cassie Ventura, who testified against him. He wanted to apologize for, quote, "any harm I have caused her emotionally or physically." He says, "Domestic violence will always be a heavy burden that I have to forever carry," he continued. "My actions were disgusting, shameful, and sick. I was sick from the drugs. I was out of control. I needed help and I didn't get the help. I cannot make no excuse." While Combs acknowledged that he can't change the past, he vowed to change the future. And as we read earlier in the stream, he said, "I beg your honor for mercy to be a father again. I have nobody to blame but myself. I will never put my hands on another person again. I've learned my lesson. I will comply with any conditions the court puts upon me." Diddy finished by saying, "I don't have nothing else but my family. That's all I need. I don't care about the fame or making money." Well, it's good that you're not worried about the fame or making money, because I don't think you're going to be very famous or making much money soon. You will be infamous. Certainly, Diddy will now live in infamy forever, but not famous. Not the cool party rap guy that we used to know before. Not that eccentric, zany, fun-loving character that we used to know on The Ellen Show. That version of Diddy is completely long gone. But I got to ask you guys, what do you guys think about this whole situation? And what do you think about the sentence? There's a little bit more information about what his kids were saying during the sentencing as well. We'll read here from E! News. It says, before Combs received his sentence, his older kids took to the stand to advocate for their dad, with Christian calling the Bad Boy Records founder, quote, the greatest in the world. Christian Combs continued, he is my hero, has always been my hero, and always will be my hero. He says, he always taught me to treat women with respect. Oh, come on. Come on, Christian. Now, I believe that your dad has always been your hero. That much I believe. That much checks out. But he always taught you how to respect women. Well, Diddy didn't even teach people he doesn't know how to respect women. I mean, just listen to his music. You know, if Diddy doesn't even teach the general public how to respect women, how can I believe that he teaches you to respect women? He doesn't even teach himself how to respect women. I've never seen an example of Diddy respecting a woman. So that doesn't check out. It says, meanwhile, Dalia cited her youngest sister, Love, while imploring the judge to give her father a lighter sentence. These are Diddy's kids speaking in court based on official reports. She said, quote, our 2-year-old sister is asking where dad is, the same way we grew up motherless. It's a hole that can't be filled. We are tired of being strong. We have already lost so much. Our mother, our father. Please give us the chance to heal together and move forward together. Interesting. I mean, yeah, it's a shame not to be around for your kids, but at the same time, all these other people who are committing crimes, they're not there for their kids. All these people getting deported, they're not there for their kids. All these people, you know, getting bombed in the Middle East, they're not there for their kids. So I don't expect special privileges for a guy who chose to commit crimes. I don't really see the angle to feel bad for this guy. So that's it, guys. Diddy sentenced to 50 months in prison. He will get away in probably 30 or less. Probably 30 or less. Diddy will get away. And he will have to pay a fine of $500,000. I feel like this is some sort of big cover-up. My final thoughts are this. This feels like a cover-up. This feels like a miscarriage of justice. This doesn't feel like the actual ending to this story. This feels like something is being swept under the rug. This feels like a really convenient way to end the Diddy saga and not let it become kind of like an Epstein Files saga. It really seems like they want to get rid of this quickly, and it almost seems like the judge just wanted to do something with Diddy to get things wrapped up, to get this trial put away. They wanted to do something with him. They found something to charge him with, but he's not being charged for the most troubling aspects of this entire case, which is the systemic abuse of people within the music business, the prevalence of high-profile, powerful people in music abusing folks through that business, the involvement of government officials and people at even higher levels of power in these conspiracies. I don't even like to call them conspiracies because they're accurate and they're true. You know, when you call something a conspiracy, it is almost like putting it in quotes as like it might be bullshit, like a conspiracy, like a theory. These aren't theories anymore. This is facts. There are many people like P. Diddy in the music business operating right now. There are many people like Jeffrey Epstein operating right now in government. It is not a theory. It is a fact. And these individuals being taken down, while it may be a symptom of the problem being remedied, it's like killing 2 cancer cells in the body. Yes, you're killing 2 cancer cells. Yes, it's good to kill 2 cancer cells because then you will have less cancer. But killing 2 cancer cells, my friends, is not going to kill the cancer. This is a symptom of a much bigger issue, a much bigger diagnosis. So that's why I don't like to see it ended like this. When we find the fall guy for any given operation within big government or big entertainment or whatever the case may be, big business, whether it's a Harvey Weinstein, whether it's a Epstein, or whether it's a Diddy, when we find the fall guy, that's when the story and the case actually begin, not when the case ends. Because, see, we're finding the face of an operation. We're not finding all the people involved in making it actually happen. And these people are not being held accountable, meaning these people are free to go and continue whatever they were doing before. Do you really think that all the people who helped Diddy do all these crimes, all the people who helped Diddy facilitate these freak-offs, all the people who helped him traffic, people who were underage, people who were of age, victims from all different shapes and sizes and ages from all around the world, do you really think that now these people are just going to stop? That they're all just going to go find a regular job? They're not going to work in Hollywood? No. These people don't work in Hollywood anymore. The drivers and the maids and all the people who knew about this, they're just going to go and get regular jobs in the workforce. And, you know, now that Diddy's in jail, well, it's like it never happened and everybody's safe now. Is that really what you guys think? You guys think that everybody's hunky-dory now that Diddy is getting 3 years in prison? Everything's good now. Everything's remedied. All those victims who were assaulted, all those women who were beat, all those kids who were trafficked, it's all cool now, right? And I mean, Epstein, he's dead, so, you know, who cares about that either? You know, everybody's been held accountable, right? That's what we're supposed to believe. Everybody's been held accountable. Well, let me tell you something, guys. I'm not buying it. Diddy is just the tip of the iceberg. Epstein is just the tip of the iceberg. And the real monsters, the real people who should be held accountable for this, well, they're not. They're still out there, and they're still running amok, probably committing crimes, probably systemically coming up with new ways to abuse people, probably getting smarter about it. Probably getting smarter about it, probably getting sneakier about it, and probably getting more covert about it to make sure they don't get caught again and lose their main guy. And I'm recording on October 3rd, 2025. I will guarantee here on video, on live stream, that this is not the last Diddy that we're going to see. We're going to see many more Diddys. We're going to see many more Jeffrey Epsteins. We're going to see many more Weinsteins. But what we're not going to see is more answers or more accountability. I think the more people who get caught for doing this type of thing, the more people who get exposed, the less answers we're actually going to have, because they're going to get more covert about it. They're going to get better at doing it. They're going to get sneakier about doing it. They're going to have better intimidation for the victims than they would even have before. So that's really all I can say, guys. This is the tip of the iceberg. And this is a big victory for corrupt people, especially within the world of Hollywood. This is a very, very big success for them. But I just want to say this before I, close my final thoughts. All you slimy motherfuckers out there, we're on to you. Whether it's Jay-Z, whether it's Beyonce, whether it's Jennifer Lopez. We're not stupid. We're wise to you, and we're wise to what you guys have been up to. So count your blessings. Hopefully you can enjoy the remaining years you have left. It's not a threat. I'm just simply saying that hopefully you enjoy the time you have before the House of Cards comes down, because it's going to come down, but they're not going to let it down. We're going to have to bring it down ourselves, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have to bring it down. So that's it, and that's that, folks. The cover-ups will continue. Diddy is officially sentenced to 50 months behind bars. He's going to do 36, including time served. So 36 months in prison and $500,000 that he needs to pay. I see in the chat, what are the odds on how long before Diddy offs himself. I feel like they got away with it, so I don't know if they're going to kill him. Because Epstein, people were really hungry about what was next. Like Epstein, there was lots of potential to expose more people. I feel like Diddy, if he was going to expose more people, probably would have started doing it by now. And it doesn't sound like he's been squealing about others behind bars. That's the one difference about Diddy that I think we've seen from other cases, whether it's the YSL Rico case or whatever the other cases are, is that everybody in those cases was talking about what other people were doing to try to get themselves out of trouble. The one thing we haven't heard about Diddy is him mentioning anybody else who was implicated in this. We have not heard Diddy talk about Jay-Z. We've not heard Diddy talk about Jennifer Lopez or Beyonce. All these people that everybody else was mentioning, and that if he was to probably start squealing about, maybe he could have got himself even better results. So I feel like Diddy's maybe not as much of a liability because he's not speaking on other people yet. And he didn't throughout this entire sentencing. So I don't know if we're going to see Diddy killed, because I feel like he probably would keep quiet. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that Diddy's going to get offed or off himself? I see he's a narcissist. He won't kill himself. For him to be away with Justin Bieber is good. Or away from Justin Bieber. I was going to say away with him. Well, yeah, he needs to be away from Justin Bieber, period. He's not a stupid fuck. He's got leverage somewhere. That's what I mean. Look, I feel like if it was going to be negative for people, for him to be alive, he wouldn't have even gotten this far. So I feel like, look, he's a powerful asset for the elites because he's kept quiet for a long time. And he kind of got caught not really due to his own admission. He got caught just in general. There was other people who became liabilities for him to get caught. So I feel like Diddy is a very good asset for these people, and he's proven himself that he's going to be quiet. Definitely an information asset. No one came out to speak on his behalf. I'm just reading the chat here. World becomes a better place when people who don't discriminate based on age, gender, and race. That's a Diddy quote? Oh my God. Deborah says Epstein had some very, very powerful people on his list. Absolutely. Again, it benefits a lot of people for Epstein to be killed. Same applies for Diddy, but I feel like Diddy, he wasn't going to squeal. I feel like Epstein was going to squeal. And then Ghislaine Maxwell, she realized. She was like, no, I got to keep quiet now because they're going to kill me next. But I do wonder what Ghislaine Maxwell is going to say, if anything, to try to get herself out of trouble. Because right now, Ghislaine Maxwell is probably the most important witness we have for all of this right now. Not even probably, she is the most important witness. So I wonder what's going to happen with all that. I really do. But like I said on a past stream, I don't think we're getting the Epstein files. John says he probably has all kinds of unrelated dirt on all of those other people. Exactly. That's the thing. So you never know, guys. You never know. Again, let me know what you guys think down below about Diddy. I covered this story all the way through the ups, through the downs, through the initial accusations, and it's been one hell of a story. I am quite disappointed about the outcome. I would have liked to have seen him be used as an example for this, because based on the evidence, he's undoubtedly guilty. And like I've said before, I think the more people we can use to hold them accountable, the more people it disempowers from doing evil shit. That's the one thing I hate about this business, Hollywood and entertainment, is that for all the good that's done, all the great entertainment and, taking people away from their daily lives and providing some relief for people, there's also this element of evil that's underlying in it. And it's a business that attracts dark energy, and it's a business that attracts people who want to use other people. So I feel like every opportunity to disempower evil in the entertainment business, we should use that as an example. Whenever we catch an evil guy who's abusing people, who's doing the casting couch technique, who's telling girls they can get a record deal by taking their clothes off, we gotta cut that shit off at the source, because it makes the business a safer place when we make an example out of these guys. Because too many people have gotten away with too much for too long. That's really the truth. Too many people have gotten away with too much shit that has made the business a pretty unsafe place. So that's ultimately what I would say. So let's see what happens with Diddy. We will find out if he's even going to do his full time. I highly doubt he's even going to do 36 months in prison. I think he's going to get out in 30 or less. That's my prediction. 30 or less, he's going to get out and probably try to make a comeback. I said earlier I don't think there's room for him to make a comeback, but I feel like he probably will find a way. He probably will find some sort of angle to come back, even if it's producing his own documentaries about what happened, like producing a Surviving Diddy show. This dude has such a sales instinct. I could see him being like the producer behind a Peacock series about Surviving Diddy. I could see him putting his name on that. Easily I could see him doing that, because he still has that. I mean, he's still Diddy. You know, for all the wrong that he's done, the guy still had a pretty keen sense of business. So I feel like if there's anybody who can actually get himself out of this position, it might be him. We might see a Diddy comeback, folks. Because look, crazier shit has happened. Bill Cosby was able to do it to a degree. People still support, what's his name? The singer, R. Kelly. Might be possible. But I think with this Epstein connection, the Epstein stuff going on, it puts Diddy a little too close for that. So he's a little close to that world, so it's going to be hard for him to bridge the gap and make a comeback. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. To all the new viewers, make sure to subscribe for updates coming out on this story. I have many different live streams about pop culture, entertainment, and breaking news. I also post original interviews almost every single week with people in music and entertainment and beyond. So make sure to go ahead and check it out. And I'll be reading all your comments. I look forward to continuing the chat down below about P. Diddy being sentenced to 4 years in prison.